Tonight I'm going to be talking about Trigger Tech triggers for the AR15 and the Remington 700 family of firearms. Both of these weapons are clear, as you can see. Nothing in that one. And this one is empty as well. Move the gun up a little bit. See? Both are clear. Both are empty. And both are ready for this little video expose, I suppose. Real quick, I'll demonstrate the pull weight of both of them. Let's see, let's back that out. Okay. This is the AR15 trigger. That was the pull on it. Very light. Okay. Now to the 30-06 Remington 700 CDL. Real light. Hardly any take up at all in the trigger. Alright, back on safe. Okay. Alright. Real quick, I'm going to show the difference in the trigger groups between my AR15 and my dad's. Okay, so this is the trigger group. That is the Trigger Tech triggers. Let you all see that right in there. Now see, that comes in a little cage. It's got a black cage around it. I'll let this go down. Very light trigger. Okay, so that's the one in my dad's AR compared to the mil-spec trigger in my AR15. Very different. Hammers are different too, as to be expected. And the pull on mine is just a hair or more. Well, not really that, it's just a lot heavier. The trigger makes a difference. So I figured I'd let you all see that comparison between the trigger that came with our DPMS oracles, which is like mine, and the one that my dad installed in his AR. Alright, let's get in to the AR-15's trigger. I got some notes wrote down as usual. Now I would normally, if I was able to, I'd have showed you guys the Trigger Tech trigger group in the Remington 700, but getting that exposed and that taken out's a lot harder on a Remington 700 than it is an AR. Anyway, my dad's AR15 DPMS Oracle has the flat blade trigger and is the competitive AR trigger, and he has his down to 3.5 pounds trigger pull, as I can demonstrate here. His is actually 2-stage, because if you notice right here, see, there's a little bit of creep right there, and then it breaks. So yeah, it is a 2-stage, but it's a very light 2-stage. Alright, the competitive AR primary trigger. Trigger lever type that you can get is straight or curved. He got the straight. The trigger action is a short 2-stage as I demonstrated there, short 2-stage. It's designed to feel like a 1911, and it is. It does feel like a 1911. I've shot a few 1911s before, and that is very comparative to almost like a 1911 pull on the trigger, just straight back. It's awesome. Has 0.00 basically zero creep according to my notes. Over travel is 15 thousandths. Reset is 30 thousandths. Reset feel is tactile mid-force. First stage weight is 0.75 pounds. Second stage weight is 2.75 pounds. Total pull weight is 3.51 or 3.5 pounds, my bad. Hammer strike force is full. Pin size is standard mil-spec pin size, 0.154 thousandths. I'll put that in there for the pin size. For the pins to keep the trigger in, they're the same. They're mil-spec sized pins. You don't need to get custom pins or anything if you have a mil-spec lower. And it says satisfaction guarantee 30 days, has a lifetime warranty, and it is for the AR15 platform. Now I will say, in comparison to my AR15, this trigger is a big improvement, because his AR15 came with about the same trigger as mine did. But this new trigger on his AR is a great addition. I will show you guys a group that I shot with his AR15 running the plinking load that we reloaded off the Dillon. Pretty impressive, right? Yeah. And that trigger had a lot to help doing with it. Of course, the scope and everything else, you know, and then there's me, the me factor. You know, being the shooter, I got to do my part, but that trigger, you'd be surprised what a good trigger will do. It's unreal. I also have some information on the material details for the TriggerTech trigger. The housing is made out of 70-75 aluminum, anodized. Key components is 440C stainless steel. PVD has PVD, stands for physical vapor dispersion, or deposition. It is a hard and durable coating that is applied to external stainless components to give them a clean black color. So you wouldn't have to worry about this rusting, this trigger group housing inside there rusting or getting beat up or any of that, because it's made out of some pretty durable steel, and the coating on it preserves it and protects it from the elements. You know, from like carbon buildup too, because I've noticed with the AR-15s that there is a certain amount of powder that will build up back in here over time. Not as much as, say, up in here and in the bolt, but there is some powder that will build up back in here in the trigger group. If you shoot a large volume of ammo in a day, so that might be something to keep in mind if you run corrosive ammo. Because if it has any salts or anything like that in it, it could potentially rust. But basically, it said that this trigger group, TriggerTech trigger group, is protected from that because of the coating that it has on. All right, on to the Remington 700. All right, the Remington 700 CDL 30-06 with a TriggerTech trigger. Very light as well. Very light trigger as well. Now my dad, he bought a, let's see, he bought a Remington 700 primary trigger, and has an adjustable single stage. Since his is adjustable on the Remington 700, he's got his down to 1.75 pounds of trigger pull, which is why it's so light in comparison to the AR. Oh, which is why it's so light in comparison to the AR15. Very light. It's like barely just any pull. Yep, alright. See, Remington 700 primary trigger, which is what his is. See, the trigger lever type, you can get it straight or curved. He got his curved. Trigger action is single stage. The over travel is sub 0.015 thousandths. The pull weight can be adjusted from 1.5 to 4 pounds. Bolt release, which is this little tab right there. That's the bolt release on the Remington 700. You press that in and pull the bolt out, and that's how you get the bolt out. He got his with safety. It comes with a safety right here. So you've all seen me flip on and off about 4 or 5 times. It said that is removable. You can get it right or left-handed. Has a lifetime warranty, and it is the weapon platform. It's obviously the Remington 700, and same thing with the housing and all that. It's all the same as the AR15. At least that's what my notes say. But it's basically, you know, besides pinholes and everything, you know, and all that, it's just like the same coating and same material, 7075 aluminum and 440C stainless steel. Alright, the price for the AR15 TriggerTech trigger was, well, as on TriggerTech's website, is listed as $214.99, and the one for the Remington 700, as listed on TriggerTech's website, is $144.99. So they're not too expensive. The Remington being a little bit cheaper. Of course, these are not the only two, you know, triggers that TriggerTech makes. I mean, they have various models for both platforms, for both the Remington 700 and the AR15. And each one of them are different in their own ways, but I just went over the ones that we have immediately here on their two firearms. And I know both of these firearms belong to my dad, but me and him have both been so impressed by the way they've performed in both his 30-06 Remington 700 CDL and his DPMS Oracle that I figured I had to do a review on them, or just a heads up, you know, because we've been running, I can't remember how long we've had them in the rifles. I guess not too long, I suppose, but for what we have run them and for as long as we have had them, they performed pretty well. Both of his rifles have increased in group potential and shootability with both of these triggers added. I mean, like the group size cut in half. I mean, he's getting sub-MOA with his Remington 700 CDL with 168 grain AMAX bullets, and that trigger is helping him out with that, and same with his AR15, getting sub-MOA with that too. The trigger pull, and you know, just having a good trigger in general helps it tremendously. Because before we put the TriggerTech in his Remington 700, it had a really bad inconsistent trigger pull. I mean, you'd be sitting there and you would be pulling and pulling and pulling, and then finally click, and it was just horrendous. I think I could actually get my 243 out and demonstrate, because it has the same trigger that his originally did. Okay, got my Remington 700 ADL. 243, and it has the original X Pro trigger. It is too empty. So they put it on fire and then pull. See how much heavier that is? That's horrible. Yeah, very heavy trigger pull in comparison to this. Doesn't even compare. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to get this trigger, both of these triggers that he has for his Remington 700 and his AR for my Remington 700 ADL 243 and my DPMS Oracle sometime down the line, because the triggers in both of them, they're okay, but they leave a lot to be desired. Well, anyway, guys, it's been Pliskin by 51mm. Figured I'd do this video on the two triggers, on the two Trigger Tech triggers, and you know, just figured I'd do a little video on them and let you guys know what I think. I think they're very good. They're triggers I definitely would recommend for the AR15 and the Remington 700. They help you shoot tremendously. Anyway, guys, until the next video, if I can get this one to upload, because it's extremely long, I'll see you guys all in the next video.